My name's Kathy Revtyak. I'm a clinical social worker, a mother, activist, and a member of our border community here on the U.S.-Mexico border. I am one of the co-coordinators of the Capacitar en la Frontera team, which I think has kind of coalesced together since 2008. So we've been working together as a team pretty actively for the last 5 years. And that's been a real pleasure and joy. So, what else?
And how have you been using Capacitar with your clients, or what do you find is most helpful from the Capacitar programs, especially for those of people who don't know really what Capacitar even is?
Sure. I was originally exposed to Capacitar in 1995 when I was living and working in El Salvador, and at that time I was just given a little, I think what was a small version of the emergency kit or manual that operated at the time, and I sort of took it with me literally in my backpack as I accompanied women who were involved in the reconciliation and reconstruction piece in El Salvador, although I was never sort of formally trained. So the Capacitar practices and really the vision for wellness and healing and trauma transformation have been a part of my life ever since then. So in accompanying women, and then when I returned when I came to the border here in 1998, and I was walking with women in a house of hospitality in Juarez, we'd pull out some of those materials and practices and use them with the women and children in the houses. Now since 2008, I've used the practices in just a multitude of capacities. I guess first and foremost, I'm a mother, and so all 3 of my children have been born and have sort of been raised through the practice, alongside the practices of Capacitar. 2 of my children I was either pregnant with or wore them in a sling when I was doing training. So first and foremost, I've used the practices personally, and then with my children and in my family. In the community organizations that I'm involved in, working alongside immigrants and refugees, not only with that population, but also with the volunteers and the activists and community members who serve them, alongside women in women's organizations, both in groups and through retreats. And then in my association with different community organizations, we use Tai Chi sometimes when we have board meetings or Paul Dam Gum exercises to sort of reboot and refocus ourselves. And in my capacity, I guess, as a companion, as a therapist, I use practices with a whole range of individuals, with families, dyads, individuals, adults, and children, and we do everything from practicing the finger holds to Paul Dam Gum to teaching family members to support each other with holds and hand massage and things like that. So recently, in some of my, I guess, in my capacity helping to sort of hold this space, I collaborate a lot with some of the team members, doing trainings in the communities, offering tasters to expose people in the community to the work of Capacitar by way of sort of inviting them to participate in the network and in the in-depth training. Our team together gets invited to local conferences like the Mano y Corazon conference that's been held for the last few years on our border to look at sort of new emerging and effective health practices that work on our border, and we've been enthusiastically invited to present and share the work that we're doing. And then even more recently, over the last couple of years, we've been providing support to I guess really frontline workers, therapists, counselors, nurses, chaplains, social workers, individuals sort of on the front lines of responding to really the violence in the multiple forms which has affected our community, and we've offered support to them because many now, in addition to teaching practices to those they serve, want to focus too simultaneously on using the practices for themselves as a form of self-care. So we've been providing some trainings and some support to them. And also, I guess lastly, we're just involved as part of the team really in creating sort of a holding space for this growing network. I mean, over the last years, we've developed truly into a binational team, a binational network of leaders on both sides of the border. And so we've really worked to communicate with each other, to share our learning with each other, and most importantly, to be a resource and a support to all those multipliers that are now out on both sides of the border in schools and churches and community centers, still continuing to multiply Capacitar. So a variety, so many different ways, right, that Capacitar has brought goodness to my life, and which I continue to try and multiply it back out.